if it was an unaligned force user. So think your Maul, your Kylo Ren unmasked, those kinds of guys. If you hit them while they are debuffed, it will charge. If you hit them while they're not debuffed, it won't do anything for his charge. We're going to keep that in mind as we move forward. Unshackle emotions, that's the big crush first action that he does. He always does this first. It deals physical damage and then inflicts daze and 4 damage over time effects for 2 turns on every character. Keep that in mind. And then Twisted Prophecy, at the start of each of his turns, enemies are inflicted with 2 damage over time effects for 2 turns. So the reason why I say to keep that in mind is every time Lord Vader takes a turn, he applies 2 debuffs. And on his first turn, he applies 7 debuffs to every character. And that becomes really, really important. So this is what it kind of looks like. And I'm just going to kind of talk over this clip. This is how it always goes every time. Come on, video. You start with your team. He does his big crush. And you're going to see how many debuffs you have on every character. I highlight this because this might be relevant to 3v3. So if you look, I don't know if you can see it. Above their head, it counts 6 dots and 1 daze on every one for a total of 21 on 3 characters. In 3v3, that's just enough to make it happen. With Grief, he gets to cleanse all of that, giving us the immediate contract. And then we're just going to kind of skip over this real quick. This is someone else's run. So why Fennec lead? You just saw what happens. Her leadership, the contract is achieved when you have 20 debuffs are dispelled or expire. So I remember the dev said something about, hey, you can just have the opposing Darth Vader do a culling blade and that counts. Well, that's cool, but your character's dead. Anyway, it does not matter how they are dispelled or expired. Either way works. But it's only bounty hunters and scoundrel allies. So if you put Rex on the team to give tenacity up and cleanse all the debuffs, that's cool, but all of his debuffs do not count. So keep that in mind. On Lord Vader's turn, his unique will apply 2 damage on overtimes on every character, and his first turn always does Unshackled Emotions for a total of 7. And so all we need to do is dispel from 3 bounty hunter or scoundrel allies. And this is where you all know Grief Karga has one really awesome ability. He dispels all the debuffs on all bounty hunter allies. They gain Retribution, which becomes somewhat important in some cases, and they recover 25% health and protection, doubled if they have a payout active. Now, what's really cool about this combination is as soon as Grief does this ability, it immediately triggers a contract before it even starts to calculate how much health and protection to give back. It gives them all of these bonuses. It gives them the 50% health and 50% protection and 50% turn meter, along with tenacity up on his first move. So what it turns out to be is that the only person's speed that matters on this team is Grief. If he goes, your team gets 50% turn meter every time. The other really cool thing about his payout is he gets stealth, so he'll never be in danger. They can't target him. They can't find him. And whenever he becomes inflicted with a debuff, his cooldowns are reduced by 1. Now, his special abilities have big, long cooldowns. This Sweeten the Deal has a cooldown of 5, and the other one, I believe, has a cooldown of 4. However, whenever Lord Vader goes, he's going to inflict 2 debuffs. So we are immediately reducing this from 5 to 3, and in some cases to 0. He will do Sweeten the Deal back to back a lot of times. So here's what it looks like. We get the Force Crush. We get the AoE from Maul. And then we're going to cleanse all the debuffs and specifically watch the turn meter. You can see the 3 bounty hunters next to it get 50% turn meter. And even Grief gets 50% turn meter. So he went from having 100% turn meter, using his turn, and then getting 50% immediately. So he's very quick. Now for the damage. The damage comes from Fennec. So this is almost like a 2-person team, and the others are just there as supports. Her special, I Don't Miss, has a cooldown of 2. It's really long, has a lot of stuff going on, so I'm going to shorten it for you. If you use this, you inflict 2 stacks of armor shred because she will already have contract. She has seasoned veteran. She gets to pick whoever she wants to point at. It's going to deal damage to every character on the field. And the only character it doesn't deal damage to immediately is the weakest. It waits for you to damage every other character and then increases the damage on the weakest enemy by how many enemies you hit. So if there are 5 people on the field, you hit them all except for the weakest, and then your damage is increased to 50% times 4. So 200% increase on this damage. It does not have to be the person you're pointing at either. It is the weakest. So you can inflict armor shred on Lord Vader while hitting their weakest person for increased damage. She also will give out overconfident. This is yet another debuff. This debuff applies to Grief's unique. So if he has 2 dots from Lord Vader and overconfident from Fennec, he will reduce his cooldowns by 3. Her crushing strike is her basic. She deals special damage to her target enemy 5 times. It's important that we know that she does special damage because that's what we're going to mod her for. If the target has no protection, which every Lord Vader team and every person on it has, they will have no protection. This ability deals 50% more damage. She also gains offense up for 1 turn. And then finally, her unique is 10% offense stacking whenever she gains tenacity up. She gets that from Grief's 3rd ability, the Cleanse. If Bam is present as a living ally, not as a leader or anything, just there, it's doubled. So she gets 20% offense stacking. So as the battle continues, she will hit harder and harder. So here's what it's going to look like in terms of damage. You see Lord Vader's by himself. He's got 4 stacks of armor shred. I'm going to slow this down, and we're going to kind of look at that again so you can see the damage output. She's going to hit 5 times. She crits once because Lord Vader has on his unique ability where he becomes crit hit immune. But once you drop below that threshold, she can't crit anymore. So it's kind of important to be able to get those big, powerful hits without a crit. Trying to get the numbers on the screen here. Oh, I missed it. Okay, well, I can't get it on the screen at the exact time, but I did get it before. And so this critical hit was 68K. That was one of them. The other 4 were 38K. So take that 38K damage times 5. You're going to get a lot. So we got tenacity up. Her damage gets increased to 46K on this one, and she's going to hit 4 times. Mass assist, and boom, from almost half health, Lord Vader is dead. Okay, this is our biggest problem, the Maul problem. He is the only one that I was worried about on this team. The first thing he gets comes from Lord Vader's unique Twisted Prophecy. Dark Side unaligned Force user allies gain speed up and stealth for 2 turns. Now that stealth is not something that we actually have any real answer for. We can't take it away from him, can't dispel it, can't attack him. He's just kind of like grief. We can't target him, we can't hit him, we can't do anything. The Bound by Hatred is Maul's unique. At the start of the battle, Maul gains Frenzy and Retribution for 2 turns and 3 stacks of Anguish. This will force him into using his AoE his first turn, so he can build up the stacks to 5. So he's very predictable in that way. While Maul has 3 or more Anguish, he's immune to stun and ability block. So I've had a lot of questions. Is that why we put Boba on the team to ability block Maul? And you can't ability block Maul. That's not the thing. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Seething Rage, Maul's special ability. He deals true damage, which you can't mod around that except for putting large amounts of health and protection on him. So he deals true damage to the target enemy, inflicts buff immunity for 2 turns. Now, on the first one, he can ignore taunt, so he can hit anyone he wants. But the 5 that follow are the ones that we're worried about, because each time this ability is used, it deals 60% more damage on subsequent uses and increases by 60%. So he is going to get 4 straight hits on somebody, if not 5, and he is going to absolutely destroy them. I have a video clip shared with me. Apologize for the screen resolution. It was recorded on a phone. But I'm just going to show you what it looks like when Maul gets loose and gets to do what he wants. We get the cleanse here. Oh, actually, we don't get the cleanse, and that was part of the problem. And then as soon as Maul gets his turn, he's going to start going off on some people. And right about now. Okay, so killed Zam, and then 1 hit killed Mando. That is scary. So, what is our solution? Well, we could ask our opponents nicely to not set Maul with that team. See if that works. If there's no Maul, there really is no problem. Fennec, Grief, and a bunch of scrubs will work. However, if there is Maul, then Bam is by far the best solution we have found. His Protective Intuition, first time each scoundrel ally falls below 75% health, he dispels all debuffs on himself, takes a bonus turn, and cooldown of Wonder the Force is reset. This is the ability where he gives damage immunity to whomever you choose. So you can basically block Maul from killing anybody. The other thing is, when he uses his special, he removes turn meter. And you can literally interrupt Maul's frenzy, remove enough turn meter from him that he does not get to go. He'll leave himself out in the open. You'll have your most important character protected, and then you can just straight up kill him. Boba Fett was our first attempt at controlling Maul. Boba Fett's frenzy is procced on special abilities done by your teammates. So Boba Fett, when he gets his contract, he gets an immediate bonus turn, and then he can use his special ability, Death from Above, applying ability block. So the idea was, if we ability block everybody else, we might be able to kill Maul before he gets a chance to get his next turn. He'll be at 0% turn meter. We have Grief giving us 50% turn meter. We outrun them significantly. So we might be able to kill Maul, or at least remove everyone else except for Maul before he actually gets to go off. And then, of course, there is the thought of having a super thick Bosk. A thick tank in general, something that can taunt, that Maul cannot ignore, something that can withstand the damage. I looked into Zalbar. It won't work because Zalbar gets increasing defense, but true damage does not care about your defense. So right now the consensus is a R9 Bosk modded to the gills with protection, ignoring speed, might be the best tank you could use. But it's so much easier to just throw Bam in there because BAM's mods literally do not matter. BAM being on the team increases Fennec's damage. It gives you a immediate solution to Maul that is guaranteed, cannot be ability blocked, increases your health. The one negative on BAM is banners. If BAM's on the team, he does not get the benefits from Grief's Cleanse. He does not get the 50% health and protection back. So it is possible that BAM will either die or, if he survives, have not full health and protection, leaving you with a maximum of 63. So here we go. Here's some footage that I found from some German guy. He ran with Bosk. I'm not sure of the stats on his Bosk because he didn't share, but you can see he also has BAM in there. So he's kind of taking both approaches. The right thing to do is armor shred Lord Vader whenever you can. The wrong thing to do is to hit the debuffed teammates. And then you see Bosk nearly died. He got to interrupt Maul's turn. And now he's out in the open. You can kill him. The retribution is really handy, as you can see. Whenever Maul does his AoE, they go and kill something or get close to it. But you can see how fast his ultimate got charged. And that's because he's hitting these debuffed enemies. Of course, Bosk's mass assist does a debuff before you even hit them. And then Grief's mass assist, when you use that, it dispels taunt, which means that they're going to get marked, which is a debuff. We learned from our experience that against when Playbook came and helped us, that Armor Shred does not count as a debuff. So when you're hitting Lord Vader with Armor Shred, it does not give him ultimate charge. So that's something to remember. And at this point, the thing that I would do differently on this battle is I wouldn't even worry about the tank. I would go straight after Lord Vader at this point and leave the tank there to try to build up your banners after Lord Vader's dead. But as you can see, the fight doesn't take long. It's pretty manageable. There is a couple scary points, but of course Bam comes in and saves the day. And then, of course, Grief also has his cleanse ready to go almost every turn he takes. Oh, and keep in mind, 70k is the amount that you can get from Mando's Disintegrate on Lord Vader. So it's probably better to just call Fennec to assist because she can do 200k on her 5. As you can see in this comp, he's using IG, Queel, and Bam. Now, Reef did his cleanse, but you noticed there's only 2 bounty hunters, meaning a total of only 16 debuffs to start. And since that was the case, Fennec did not have her contract right away. And so she had to wait before she could pick a target. And that is her contract, her seasoned veteran. She only gets to ignore taunt once she's hit contract. This one is a little bit sketchier, but of course Bam covers up all the holes on this team. He's already at ult. He's got everybody on the field. It's a much less comfortable position to be in than the previous battle when you had more bounty hunters in there. Queel only is, I mean, the amount that Queel provides to this team makes IG harder to kill. That's really what he does. His defense penetration is fine and all, but you don't really need it on this team. Also notice that he doesn't have any armor shred yet, and we're 3 minutes into the battle. It's going to make him harder to kill towards the end. Now we're applying armor shred. There was a mistake right there. He called to assist when he had his third available. Key thing to remember is if you can third with grief, then always third with grief. You get 50% turn meter, it's way better than a mass assist. I do like IG's heal in this case, though. It's pretty nice. But I think, I believe at the end you'll see that he does not get nearly the amount of health and protection back as the other team did. So this has significantly lower banner potential in GAC. And he lost Wheel, which doesn't kill the team, but still, it hurts your banners. And there you go. So I'm going to show you one more video, and it is the run that Rick and I did most recently in the Wookiee Roars. I made a mistake throwing bombs with Zam here, but you can see none of them landed, so I got lucky. But I want you to kind of keep an eye on the ultimate charge here. So far, he has none, and it pretty much stays that way for the entire battle. So like I said, if there's no Maul, there's no problem. You notice there wasn't any Maul on this team. There was a very fast Moff Gideon, but I'll tell you how we handled that. Again, don't debuff if you don't have to. I learned that lesson in this battle. There was no need to use Zam's electro goggles. I should have just basicked with her. She is not there for any other reason than to give her unique Omicron. His ultimate charge is still below 50% because we've managed to not hit the targets that have debuffs. We have 4 stacks of armor shred already. We're pretty good on health and protection, almost full on everybody but Bam. At this point, I could have just gone straight for Lord Vader. It probably would have been better that way. Leave the tanks to top off health and protection later. This fight had a potential of getting 65 banners, and I did not play it right. Now his ultimate charge is almost at 50%. Don't throw bombs. That was a dumb move by me. Birds are cool because it applies health immunity, but notice before he even gets to 100% ultimate charge, all of his characters are dead. He can't pull their mastery. This is the scariest part when he has the ability block that cannot be evaded, cannot be resisted. So you're stuck not being able to use Grief's turn. And you can see the kind of damage we're doing with Fennec now. She's going to get one more pop in there. See, I opted for the third to top off health and protection. And you see the damage almost killed him from there. Do not do electro goggles. That was dumb. And then we finish him off on a grief mass. So here's the power of the Zam Omicron. It's hard to tell the speeds down here, but his Zam is, I believe, 336, and his grief was 345. The Zam Omicron adds 20% speed, so his grief had an effective speed of 412. Now, the Moff Gideon we were facing was modded to 371, and with Lord Vader's leadership ability, he was actually 1 speed less than 412. So we were able to beat him. I've seen people with faster mods on Grief than 345. That was our biggest challenge that we had, is outspeeding Grief, and it worked. This setup of 412 effective speed would outspeed about 90 5% of all the Darth Vaders in the game. It would outspeed every Thrawn in the game, and it outspeeds almost every Grief, or not Grief, Moff Gideon in the game. So that's it. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, or if you have any ideas for team comps, I am available for any of that. We can open it up right now.
I actually have a few.
Mm-hmm.
So one small issue in there with BAM, the TM removal when he intercepts is resistible, unfortunately, or at least does not happen always.
That's true.
So you want to place the damage immunity on the character he's going after, because
Yes,
he will continue going after that person. The second thing, you suggested Bosk as a tank in there, and I am convinced that if you have a Relic 9 Bosk, you can simply use Bosk Lead instead of Fennec Lead, because Fennec Lead is not providing more than Bosk Lead, and Bosk Lead is adding a ton of survivability. The only downside is that you need to do a little math for the contract, like you need to make sure before you go in that it's not Maul being the weakest, otherwise you'll have a hard time hitting the contract.
Yes, that's what I was afraid of by using another leadership.
Usually, actually, it's for some odd reason Stormtrooper in all the battles I did with Boss Fleet, but I believe it's because Maul is getting some other stats boost that usually pushes him ahead, but yeah. Even if it's like, I don't know, Thrawn, who's the weakest. Yeah.
So my top is us. What? Can you hear me? What is he talking? What was
But overall, yeah, great presentation. It's a nice counter to have in your pocket.
It could be. This is just a theory I have, that the reason why the stormtrooper or one of those guys is the weakest is because people focus their highest relics on damage dealers. So it could be that you find yourself running against a person crazy enough to put R7, R8 on a stormtrooper, and you might not be able to do that anymore. But I agree with you. Bosk Lee does provide significant survivability, and that is something that we are considering for TW, as we're splitting up our bounty hunters to take out 2 GLs instead of just 1.
Yeah, it's a good call, but still, without Fat Boba Lead, the damage increase on Fennec, like that's also something I like in there with BAM.
Mm-hmm.
The damage scale is at least somewhat there, and you get more tenacity ups, but it's still nowhere close the same as with Fat Boba. So there's a very real timeout risk.
No, good points.
And by the way, I also saw Fennec Lead going south because there, at least in that comp, there was no tank, and Lord Vader simply one-shot basicked Fennec. Was a Relic 9 Lord Vader though, and I believe like a crit damage triangle, I'm not sure. Quite a bit of offense, and yeah.
Okay, something to consider.
Are there any Zeta requirements here, JJ?
Oh, great point. So in order to get that speed jump, you have to have the Zeta on Zam so that you can put the Omicron on her. The Grief Zetas are not necessary. Let's see.
Mando?
You put a Zeta on Bam if you're going to use him, because his Wonder of the Force thing doesn't work without the Zeta. And I believe that's it. Those are the only requirements.
So it does work without the Mando one?
Oh,
for the
you
turn
know what?
meter.
I'm sorry. Grief has a Zeta requirement. Yeah. Now you don't need the Mandalorian in there. You don't need OG Mando in there. I was using him to get rid of a very thick, difficult to kill Royal Guard, and to call Fennec. That's his. I mean, that's his best trick, is calling Fennec to assist. But you don't actually need his turn meter gain, because a lot of times you'll have the dots stacked on you and you can't gain turn meter.
Hey JJ, I think you do need that second grief Zeta. The doesn't dispel the debuff.
Yeah, the second one, not the first one. The first one is increased damage on the mass assist. That one you don't need, but the second one you do. You're right.
So JJ, could you review, if I'm looking at a team that has Maul in it, what are the key things I need to think about as to whether or not I can beat it or not?
Okay, so if the team has Maul in it, what we're trying to do is outrun their second fastest character. We don't need to look at Maul's speed, because he's going to get procced by Frenzy. We need to look at their other characters. Darth Vader is one that's hard to calculate, because he gets his unique speed and he gets Lord Vader's leadership speed. Typically, Darth Vader gains 88 speed on top of whatever he's modded. Fortunately, he's a slower character, so he's going to be in the 270s maybe. Some people have him cracked out with even faster. Thrawn, he's going to get 40 speed, I believe, for being Empire. Someone correct me if I miscalculated. So, considering that you get 40 speed to the Empire or Dark Side unaligned people, just remember to tack that on top. Does that answer your question?
Sure. So I mean, that's obviously gets you ahead. Is there anything else to worry about, or as long as you've got the Valix, as long as you're ahead, the battle should go as expected?
Yeah. If grief goes, so of course Lord Vader and Maul will go first and second always. We're never going to outspeed Lord Vader, and then we're never going to outspeed Maul's Frenzy proc. But if we can go third with grief, we should be okay. And if you have BAM, you can actually go last and still be okay, because BAM covers up all those holes.
And the same theoretically would go with an R9 Bosk, right? That you would not need to go first if you feel you can tank 5 stacks.
That's the real question, right? Can Bosk do it at R9? I'm going to go back to this one, because I think it's... Oh, wait, nope, not this one. I'm going to go back to this one, because it's a pretty good example of what I'm talking about. So, in this battle, we don't do any of the right moves. We don't use Grief's Cleanse. So we're not getting Contract. We're not getting the turn meter. We're not getting the health and protection. And this is the one where Maul goes off and kills 2 people. We got lucky on this that he didn't kill Fennec. He could have killed her and the battle would be done, because she's our damage. But killing Zam doesn't hurt us. Killing Mando doesn't really hurt us, because he gets his life back. But in that battle, even making all those mistakes, that person won. He won that battle anyway. And that's what BAM does for you. He really covers up any holes that you have in your modding or the turns that you take.
Another question, JJ. Did you mention what the minimum threshold for Fennec is, mod-wise?
Like in terms of speed and damage?
I was more thinking health and offense, but yeah.
Okay, so of course we're modding her for special damage. The mark that we were aiming for was 12K. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have 12K. And then secondarily, her health and protection Again, if you have BAM, it doesn't really matter because BAM will save her. And then if you don't have BAM, let me go into this real quick. Let me see what he used, because I could give you the exact stats that Rick had. The really cool thing about it is, since Grief is giving out all that turn meter, you don't ever have to worry about speed. The only speed marks that we worried about outside of Zam and Grief was trying to make sure that Mando was 1 speed faster than Fennec to give her a call to assist. But that's not even necessary. The turn order is what you want it to be. Let me find it.
I'm guessing the health and protection is only minorly important due to the amount of dots that get stacked on her.
Right. Also, remember, Zam's health and protection is getting shared with her Omicron.
Right.
So it might even be beneficial to mod Zam for the health and protection if you can with the speed. But yeah, I would just say focus on the special damage for Fennec. And then focus on the crit chance for Mando, just in case he does get some turn meter out of it. Great questions. These are all really good.
JJ, if you use BAM on this team, how do you end up using the rest of your scoundrels? Do you have a comp that you use that's compelling? Quill
So
and IG?
that is the question, right? Because it's almost like you're wasting BAM. Personally, I've been putting BAM with my Maul Mandos because that team is a pain in the ass on defense. So with the rest of my scoundrels like Quill and IG, I like to run this stupid ass team. It's Dengar lead with L3, Vandor, IG, and Quill. It's a timeout team essentially, and it's really dumb. But people have burned their Night Sisters on it and can't kill it. Most of the people that take it out use Treya. And if I pair like a Iden Omicron in the same zone, it makes them choose. So I can't tell you that that's the answer. I don't know that that's the way. You might pair them, IG and Quill with a dash team. It depends on your roster, but that's what I've been doing, not putting BAM on that team. Here's your...
You're
Go
able
ahead.
to do that by just keeping a very fast Grief then?
You might be able to. You know what you can really do is, if you know your opponent doesn't put Maul on his team, you can go without BAM and throw in Boba instead. Or you could throw in literally any fifth. It doesn't actually matter. Here's the stats on Rick's health and protection on his Fennec. As you can see, there's not a lot of focus on it. She is Relic 7, so... Oh, wait, that's Zam. Sorry. Oh, yeah. No, that was Fennec. Yeah. So 59.8k health, 78.2k protection.
Is there a reason for the defense set?
On this one?
Yeah.
I think it was just getting a crit damage triangle. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that the defense actually does any help there. So you could do health, you could do crit chance, you could do whatever you want.
It was unintentional. You can see there's a little bit of offense percent in the secondary.
Yeah.
So the crit damage triangle was unintentional too, right? Because you're not critting Lord Vader a lot.
Yeah, the crit damage triangle is not necessarily
Preference?
what you would optimize for.
Offense would be better.
Yes.
What's the date on that mod set, JJ?
This was the first one. That was from the battle that I showed at the end. So don't everybody yell at Rick. He's updated his mods and they're better now.
What would be a good, on the counter for defense, to prevent somebody using this counter to our LV if we're still setting up defense?
Excellent question. I do believe that the Lord Vader team with Mara Jade and Magna Guard on it might actually throw a wrench into this. The other thing that you can do is you can, in order to prevent this, you could just mod your Maul for straight damage and hope that they screw up.
Insanely fast Lord Vader sounds promising too, right?
Yes, insanely fast Lord Vader is really good.
I mean, not Lord. I mean Darth. Sorry.
Okay. Right.
Yes, insanely fast Darth Vader would be good too. If you can push your opponent in terms of their grief and Zam modding to not beat Darth Vader, you might be able to crush him. The only problem with Darth Vader is he does his force crush. And if he did merciless right away, then your team would be in a whole world of shit. But yeah.
Actually, I believe fast Thrawn also poses a lot of problems.
I think it's actually easier to get your Darth Vader to outrun than Thrawn because of his unique. That's all.
I modded my Thrawn for high speeds anyways to mess up other counters. And like you can get him to like even 340 speed with 140% tenacity, which will even mess with the JML counter. And I believe that should make him go at around 380 speed, right?
380.
So
yeah,
that first fracture, if he actually goes first and there's no debuff to cleanse, should be super annoying.
The other thing that you might want to consider is what's the cost of, the team you're putting down on defense versus the team that they're using on offense. I think that the Lord Vader team with Maul is the only thing that might prevent this. But I also think that the Maul Mandalorians is a better defensive team when added with a Lord Vader team that doesn't have Maul. So it's just something to consider. I don't know. Lord Vader gets significantly weaker without Maul, but then you have a whole team with him.
Can you quick
Go
go over what your Dengar team that you used, and if you're using BAM with the counter, what was your Dengar team?
Yeah, it's Dengar's lead.
Yep.
With IG, Queel, Vandor, and L3.
Oh, Vandor L3. Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a really stupid team. It's a timeout team. It can be killed by a lot of stuff, but usually people don't want to spend a lot on it, so they try to run Night Sisters at it, and it loses. Like, Night Sister loses to that.
Do we have any idea how much protection Bosk would need in order to be the tank?
I don't. I've seen one Bosk tank all the hits. That was on Arnold's stream. I don't know the mods of his opponent, and I don't know what Arnold's mods were. So it's in theory possible. I believe Arnold said his Bosk's protection was like 180, but I could be wrong on that.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay.
So I'm running my Bosk with 152k protection, and it's enough against Mauls who don't have crazy offense. But then again, I also used like a fast boss, so I'm kind of limited.
And see, I think it's possible to run Bosk with a less importance of speed. Just give him better protection mods and less speed because grief is going to carry you.
Guess I'm going to try it and see. My boss is R9 with 130k protection right now, and so.
So yeah, you can reach 150k easily with 3 protection primaries and a few protection secondaries.
Yep. Remember,
I like to keep a little like flexibility with the team. So yeah, quite often people change up comms and try something new, and then suddenly your Bosk is not really usable anymore and anything else. So I like to keep my Bosk fast anyways.
right. If you were going to dedicate your boss to this, I would just say that remember, you don't need speed because grief gives a 50% turn meter. Now, if you want to have that flexibility, of course, you need boss to be fast. That's just something to think about. And also, if you guys get any footage and you want to throw it my way or ask me a question about it anytime, just send it straight to my DM. This is Rick's updated Fennec Sean modding. Much better. Still defense percent here.
Come on, Stevens, get that offense up.
It's plenty. Got a little bit faster.
We got a lot of offense requirements for TW, man.
Yeah, we
What's
do.
those Mando mods?
Sure do.
Mando, I think he was just trying to hit crit chance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just crap right now.
Yeah.
5 dots purple. What are you doing to your bounty hunters?
I think he was trying to hit 1 speed faster than Fennec. Oh, nope. You're 10 behind Fennec. Never mind. I don't know.
So JJ, what do you do with the rest of your bounty hunters if you're using a bunch of them like this?
Well, the question actually is better for Rick.
Oh God, really? Well, we've only had 2 failures so far with this encounter. I've actually used Boss Bleed with Boba Django to clean up Lord Vader, and then at other times I've set him on defense. I may not be seeing the same caliber opponents you guys are seeing. I'm not really sure. So, like, my plus, with me running. Hold on one second. Also, sorry, there's background noise. Also, with me running this counter, I'm putting a little bit more difficult defense. So it really doesn't matter if I put some crap bounty hunters on defense. But I'm encountering some easier teams still whenever I get to the back zones. So I've been able to use bounty hunters for some more minor stuff. But I'm not really a bounty hunter specialist, so it's not really been a big deal for me not to have them available because I didn't really start using them until the last, 4 or 5 months.
If you check out the Roars chat, Brule has evidence of what I would consider the best usage of your remaining bounty.
Well, there you go.
Brule, you want to talk about the potency hunters? That's okay. You don't have to.